Cell structure and functions. Cell membrane, also called the plasma membrane, found in all cells and separates the interior of the cell from the outside environment. Consists of lipid bilayer that is semi-permeable. It regulates the transport of materials entering and exiting the cell. The cell membrane serves as the wall protecting the cell from the outside environment. Nucleus. The nucleus controls and regulates the activities of the cell, the largest organelle and the control center of the cell. Carries the genes, structure that contain the hereditary information. The nucleus serves as the control center of the cell. It controls all the activity of the cell. NUCLEOLUS. The primary function of NUCLEOLUS is in facilitating ribosome biogenesis through the processing and assembly of ribosomal RNA or rRNA into pre-ribosomal particles. It is involved in controlling cellular activities and cellular productions of the cell. Nuclear envelope separates the content of the nucleus from the cytoplasm, and it provides the structure framework of the nucleus. Nuclear pores. Small holes that control which ions and molecules can move in and out of the nucleus. The nuclear pores also allow necessary proteins to enter the nucleus from the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm, a gel-like fluid inside the cell. It provides shape and support to the cell. It is the medium for chemical reaction. It provides a platform upon which other organelles can separate within the cell. The cytoplasm serves for holding the components of the cell and protects them from damage.
Endoplasmic reticulum or ER. It is involved in the transportation of substances throughout the cell. It also plays a primary role in the metabolism of carbohydrates, synthesis of lipids, steroids, and proteins. Inside eukaryotic cells, an organelle called endoplasmic reticulum, it is responsible for making and packaging proteins and lipids to send around the cell, much like the assembly line in a factory. It can either be smooth or rough, and in general, its function is to produce proteins for the rest of the cell to function. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum. It can be either smooth or rough. The rough endoplasmic reticulum, its function is to produce proteins for the rest of the cell to function. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has on it ribosomes, which are small round organelles. It also transports proteins using vesicles. While the smooth ER doesn't contain ribosomes in the membrane, it's mostly responsible for assembling, packaging lipids to be used by the cell or exported outside of the cell, just like the rough ER. The endoplasmic reticulum is connected to the nuclear envelope as a part of a system called the endomembrane system. The endomembrane system includes nuclear envelope, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, and vesicle. Each of these organelles is important to the creation and transport of proteins and lipids. The endomembrane system assembles proteins, modifies them, and encloses them in a plasma membrane to be used inside the cell or transported outside of the cell. Without this system, other cells and organs in the body would not function properly without the products that these organelles normally send. Golgi apparatus or Golgi body is a cell organelle that helps in the processing and packaging of proteins and lipids molecules, especially proteins intended to be exported from the cell. The Golgi body, named after its discoverer, Camillo Golgi, resembles a series of stacked membranes. As a part of the endomembrane system, Golgi body take existing protein and lipid structures that have been synthesized in the ER and modifies them. Mitochondria. Our bodies need energy to move, to eat, and to breathe. The chemical energy in the human body is produced in a part of the cell called mitochondria. It is also called the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is called powerhouse of the cell because they carry out the process of aerobic respiration and generate the energy molecules ATP or adenosine triphosphate for cell operation. Basically, they release energy from food. Lysosomes function as the digestive system of the cell, helping to destroy material taken up from outside of the cell, as well as digesting outdated cell components. It has vesicles containing hydrolytic enzymes. Hydrolytic enzymes digest waste products of the cell. Lysosome is also called Lord of Destruction because it destroys stuff with two steps. It engulfs this waste product and gets in good contact with hydrolytic enzyme and destroys them. Lysosomes get its enzymes from the rough endoplasmic reticulum or ER. Cytoskeleton. Not only our body has skeleton but also our cell. Cyto means cell and skeleton means skeleton. The most abundant thing in the cell is water, except for fat cells because water and fat do not mix. Second is protein. We have two types of proteins. Structural or immobile, contains your cytoskeleton. Second is functional, which is mobile, contains your enzymes. Skeleton organized into tubules or filaments. It also provides structure, giving the cell the specific shape. It also determines the shape of the cell and helps maintain their shape. It also provides track or bridge for organelles to move. And there are also three types of cytoskeleton. First is microfilaments. It is also called actin filaments because it's made of protein known as actin. It also provides tracks for movement, and microfilaments are necessary for cell movements, cell division, and muscle contraction. Second is microtubules. Microtubules are made of protein called tubulin, protein known as. If it ends with IN, it also provides usually tracks for movement. And microfilaments are necessary for cell movements, cell division, and muscle that gives shape to many cells. Is microfilaments. Microtubules regulate cell growth, actin filaments, and movement as well as protein known as actin, which modulate also provide fundamental cellular processes. And microfilaments are necessary for cell movements, cell division, and muscle contraction.
Are made up of keratin.
First is microfilaments. It is also called actin filaments because it's made of protein known as actin. It also provides tracks for movement.
Such as hair,
and microfilaments are necessary for cell movements, cell division, and muscle contraction.
Filaments is to
First is microfilaments.
Of the cell
it is
membrane
also called
between
actin filaments
cells and
because it's made of
extracellular
protein known as
matrix.
actin. It also provides tracks for
Ribosome.
movement.
Ribosome
And
is an
microfilaments are
intercellular
necessary for
structure
cell
made of
movements,
both
cell
RNA
division,
and protein,
and muscle contraction.
and it is the site of protein synthesis
First
in the
is
cell. It
microfilaments.
reads the
It
messenger
is also
RNA
called actin
sequence
filaments
and
because
translates
it's made
that
of
genetic
protein
code
known
into a
as
specific
actin.
string
It also
of
provides
amino acids,
tracks for
which
movement.
grow into
And
long chains that
microfilaments
code
are
to
necessary
form
for cell
proteins.
movements, cell
So,
division, and muscle
ribosomes are made
contraction.
of RNA and protein,
First is
and their function is
microfilaments.
to read RNA
It is
and
also called
synthesize
actin
protein.
filaments because it's made of
Ribosomes are
protein
mostly
known as
located in
actin.
cytoplasm
It also
and
provides
rough
tracks
or
for
rough
movement.
endoplasmic
And
reticulum.
microfilaments are
Free-floating
necessary for cell
ribosomes in
movements,
cytoplasm
cell division, and
synthesize
muscle
proteins to
contraction.
be used within the cell.
First
While
is
ribosomes
microfilaments.
in the rough
It is also called
synthesize
actin
proteins
filaments
to be
because
used
it's made of
outside of
protein
the
known
cell.
as actin.
Proteins
It
are
also
very
provides tracks for
important
movement.
to cells
And
because they
microfilaments are
participate in
necessary for
practically
cell
every
movements,
process
cell
of a
division,
cell.
and muscle
It plays
contraction.
a part in metabolic reactions
First is
and immune response.
microfilaments. It
Proteins
is
also
also called
provide a
actin
source of
filaments
energy,
because it's made of
assist in
protein
cellular
known as
repair,
actin.
form
It also
blood
provides
cells, and more.
tracks for
In
movement.
conclusion,
And
proteins are
microfilaments
important
are
to the
necessary
structure,
for cell
function,
movements,
and regulation
cell
of the
division,
body.
and muscle contraction. First is
There are other
microfilaments.
organelles you
It
can
is
find
also
within
called
the cell.
actin filaments because it's made of protein known as
Centrioles.
actin.
Centrioles are
provides
found in an
tracts
area
for
called
movement.
centrosome.
And
Centrosome
microfilaments
is a
are
cellular
necessary for
structure
cell
located
movements,
at the near
cell
the
division,
nucleus
and muscle
that is
contraction.
involved in the process of cell division.
First is
The centrioles
microfilaments.
are active
It
during
is also
cell
called
division,
actin
and they
filaments
form
because it's
the
made of
mitotic
protein
spindle
known as
during the
actin.
process of cell
It
division.
also provides tracts
Mitotic
for
spindle
movement.
is consisting
And
of
microfilaments are
microtubules.
necessary for cell
Centrioles
movements,
pulls apart
cell division,
chromosomes
and muscle
and
contraction.
organize DNA movement during cell
First
division.
is
During cell division,
microfilaments. It is
centrioles
also
pull
called
apart
actin
chromosomes
filaments
that
because
allows
it's
the
made of
cell to
protein
split
known
into
as
two.
actin. It also provides tracts for movement.
So in
And
conclusion,
microfilaments
its
are
function
necessary
is to
for cell
organize
movements,
microtubules
cell
for
division,
cell
and muscle
division, and
contraction.
to create
First
microtubules to make
is
the
microfilaments.
cytoskeleton.
It is also called actin filaments because it's made of
CYTOSOL.
protein known as
CYTOSOL
actin.
is involved
It
in
also
signal
provides
transduction
tracts for
between the cell
movement.
membrane and
And
the nucleus and
microfilaments are
organelles.
necessary for
It
cell movements,
transports
cell
metabolites
division,
from their
and muscle
production site
contraction.
to other parts of the cell.
First
Now,
is
what is
microfilaments.
cytosol?
It is
Cytosol
also
is a
called
fluid
actin
present in
filaments
the cell
because it's
membrane
made
and a
of protein
component
known
of the
as
cytoplasm.
actin. It also provides
Cytoplasm is a
tracts
cell
for
component
movement.
present in the cell
And
membrane.
microfilaments
The
are
difference
necessary for
between
cell
the two
movements,
is that
cell division, and muscle
cytoplasm
contraction.
contains cytosol and organelles.
First is
Everything included in the
microfilaments.
cell membrane,
It is
which
also
is the
called
organelles,
actin filaments
except
because
the
it's made
nucleus.
of protein
While
known as actin.
cytosol is the
It also
area of
provides tracks
cytoplasm
for movement.
that's not held by
And
organelles.
microfilaments are necessary
Imagine
for
the
cell
structure of a
movements,
cell
cell
without the
division, and
organelles
muscle
and the
contraction.
nucleus. All that's left
First
is a
is
liquid medium contained within a
microfilaments.
cell, which
It
is
is also
the
called
cytosol.
actin filaments because it's made of
Vacuole.
protein known as
Vacuole
actin.
stores water
It also
and
provides
nutrients, and at the
tracks for
same time,
movement.
it provides
And
structural support.
microfilaments are
It
necessary
also
for cell
stores
movements,
waste,
cell
enzymes,
division,
and
and
even all
muscle
damaged
contraction.
organelles. So in
First
conclusion,
is
vacuole is used for
microfilaments.
storage of
It
water
is also
and
called
other
actin
materials
filaments
and
because
helps
it's
to
made of
regulate the
protein known
amount
as
of fluids
actin.
inside a
It
cell.
also provides tracks for movement. And microfilaments are necessary for cell
Peroxisome is an
movements,
organelle
cell
that
division,
sequesters
and muscle
diverse
contraction.
oxidative reactions
First
and play
is
important roles in
microfilaments.
metabolism.
It is also
Reactive
called actin
oxygen
filaments
species,
because it's made of protein
detoxification,
known
and
as
signaling.
actin. It also provides
Peroxisome has a
tracks for
peroxisomal
movement.
membrane,
And
which is a double
microfilaments are
membrane.
necessary
It
for cell
also has
movements,
this
cell division,
crystalloid core.
and muscle
So
contraction.
in conclusion,
First
peroxisomes
is
help break down
microfilaments.
fatty acids.
It is also called actin filaments because it's made of
Chloroplast.
protein known as actin.
Chloroplast is
It also
another
provides
organelle
tracks
that's
for
found in the
movement.
plant cell, but
And
not in the animal
microfilaments are
cell.
necessary for cell
The
movements,
chloroplast is
cell
green
division,
due to a
and muscle
pigment known
contraction.
as chlorophyll, which plays
First
a role in
is
photosynthesis.
microfilaments. It
Photosynthesis
is also
is a
called
process by
actin
which the
filaments
plant
because
takes
it's
the
made
sunlight,
of protein
carbon
known as
dioxide, and
actin.
water
It also
to
provides
produce
tracks
glucose
for
and
movement.
oxygen gas.
And microfilaments are necessary for cell movements,
And last but not
cell
the least,
division,
the
and
cell
muscle
wall.
contraction.
Both the animal cell and the plant
First
cell
is
contain a cell membrane.
microfilaments. It is
However,
also
cell
called
wall is
actin
only found in
filaments
plant
because
cells,
it's made of
and it is the
protein known as
outermost layer of
actin.
plant cells.
It also provides
Cell wall
tracks
is
for
made of
movement.
cellulose,
And
hemicellulose,
microfilaments are
and actin,
necessary for
which
cell
plays an
movements,
integral
cell
role in
division,
keeping the
and
structure
muscle
to be
contraction.
stable. It provides
First
shape
is
and support to the
microfilaments.
cells.
It
A
is
major
also
role
called
of the cell
actin
wall is to
filaments
form a
because it's made
framework
of
for the cell to
protein known
prevent
as actin.
overexpansion.
It also provides tracks